Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're talking about skids.
Yeah, we sure are.
Aaron, what's the most extreme personal mode of transportation you rode around on back in the 80s?
Well, it's got to be the dirt bike.
I didn't know you dirt biked.
Well, I mean, I had a dirt bike and went and drove it in the dirt. I didn't actually go out and race a dirt bike anywhere. This was just a dirt bike made for going up and down dirty hills. I
Okay.
used to love those things. I mean, when I was a kid, kids at least in this neighborhood, kids have changed a lot. I don't know. I always wonder because I've got a very small sampling of what kids are like now. You know more than me. How many kids ride their bike to school and stuff today?
Well, I would say where I go to school, lots of kids walk. I wouldn't say lots of kids ride their bike. We have a bike rack out front, and I think there's usually like 2 or 3 bikes, and there's 500 kids at the school. Lots of kids walk to school though, because actually both of our neighborhoods are quite walkable to the closest. Definitely high school for you, and for me, all 3 schools are close. At Winfield, they're all right there on the road next to each other.
Yeah, it's very handy. I never rode my bike to school, but I mean, it's funny. When I was a kid, there were 2 things I don't see anymore. There were bands of roving dogs that roamed the neighborhood. I've talked about that before. They were everywhere. And several different gangs of dogs. People owned the dogs. Presumably they fed the dogs. But otherwise, the dogs were just turned loose. They went everywhere. And then there were also bands of roving children on bikes. They were usually in a big pack, and myself included. And we would drive bikes all over the neighborhood. Sometimes we would just drive them around. Sometimes we were getting somewhere. Sometimes we were attempting to do stunts with the bikes. But always on bikes because bikes were cool. And then on top of the bike gang, I would also just take and have adventures on my bike. Drive all over the valley. Anywhere you could get to with the bike that didn't involve going on the main road was fair game. So I went all the way up and down the valley as far as I could go, all the way out to the interstate. And it was a good time. I feel bad that my son doesn't have a bike. And doesn't care to ride a bike, doesn't even want to, and he's never been on a skateboard, which I've been on one a handful of times. What about you? What was it like when you were growing up?
Yeah, well, I was the same way. I was on my bike all the time, all the time. I was fortunate, much like yourself, to grow up in a subdivision where you could ride. If you went away from the main road, you could ride and ride and ride. The neighborhood I grew up in had a trailer park right behind where I lived, old Jefferson Park. Sure, you delivered pizzas out there.
Oh, yeah.
And so we'd ride our bikes around the trailer park, just endless loops around the trailer park. And then you could ride your bike out past the trailer park, down the hill, and end up behind the Baptist church, you know? And so we did that. Now that's a legit road with a legit park up there and stuff. I rode my bike all the time. Now, at some point when I was probably in my late middle school or early high school years, my mom probably watched some program on television, and she's like, "You need to start wearing a helmet." And I was like, "Oh no, I don't want that." But she was like, "Oh yeah." And so I rode my bike less after that, or I would ride my bike with the helmet on, and then as soon as I was out of sort of the sight, which didn't take long, the helmet was off, because that was lame. You don't wear a helmet with a bike when you're a kid.
It's funny because I was thinking, I don't remember. There may have been a couple kids that had helmets. I don't remember, but I would actually be frightened if kids wore helmets because I know what would happen. They would come up and hit you with the helmet or try to headbutt you with the helmet.
Right.
I guarantee it because the kids are also jerks. But yeah, we never wore helmets. Now, I will say for the brief time I switched over to a 10-speed, I could have used a helmet for that because that was much scarier.
Oh
kids
yeah,
would go so much faster.
you got those thin tires too. It's precarious.
Yeah, and the brakes. I hated the brakes on 10-speed.
Yeah,
not pedaling backwards blows.
I do share your sort of sadness that I don't see kids riding bikes, like a big, big packs of kids riding bikes around this neighborhood. Although this neighborhood is not really a very bikeable neighborhood because it's all uphill and downhill with
They would need
potholes.
the Moon Patrol car
Yeah,
to go up
yeah.
and down your
But
neighborhood.
there are several kids that do ride dirt bikes around my neighborhood, mostly at night when I'm trying to sleep. And and so
they're up to neffarity on those
yeah,
nights for
yeah.
sure.
But yeah, it's a different time. And I wish just in general, like you watch, like we're friends with people on Discord and people in other countries, they live in bikeable areas where, it's easy to get on your bike and go where you need to go. Here we our traffic are not necessarily, most of your car driving people are not necessarily friendly to bicycles when they see them on the road.
Yeah, including me, because there's no room for them. They'll get killed. It's just
Right.
too scary, especially out these creeks. Now, let me ask you, since we're covering both, what's your history with the old skateboard?
Now, my skateboard history is very interesting because I grew up at a time when skateboarding was really like, you were probably in your early teens when skateboarding hit big, and I was like 8 or like 7 or something. And so my mom, I was like, Mom, I want a skateboard. And she's like, okay. And she brings me back this little skateboard. I swear it's a foot long. It's a foot long. She's like, here's your skateboard. So while the rest of my friends, they had Nash. Remember that brand Nash skateboards?
Yeah.
I always wanted a Nash. And I had this little dinky thing, and I would just ride it around, and like it was almost like a roller skate that you'd ride on with one foot. It was so
Yeah.
tiny. And then eventually, my mom did get me a bigger skateboard, and I remember I put a Super 102 sticker on the bottom of it. It was
Sweet.
great. Yeah, that's right. It was back before it was electric 102. It was Super 102. And I used to ride that thing, and what I discovered is that I could get the biggest rate of speed because my parents lived in the top of a hill, and you came up the top to get to and then there were more hills on the bottom on the other side, or more houses on the other side. So you go down the hill, and I could get the most speed if I laid down face first on the skateboard and hold on to it like this and steer like you're on it, like the luge or something like that.
Yeah.
And looking back at it now, I'm like, man, how did I not die? Because like, all it takes is just like one. If you fall off that board, your face is going directly into the pavement.
Yeah. I will say 2 things happen probably in the gap between you and me in terms of the age and stuff. Is that 2 things changed. One was surfboards. Surfboards got much huger, much longer and wider, and then skateboards changed. The shape, they both changed. They both got, like, skateboards became effectively sort of like almost a rectangular with a curved front and a winged back. They had it with a like a
for your tricks.
And the wheels changed. Like when I was young, the skateboards were sort of like they were more rounded and way smaller, and the wheels weren't nearly as good. And so, I mean, no one was doing tricks. I mean, nobody. And so I knew some people that had skateboards, but they weren't doing cool stuff. Or they were just skating with them.
Yeah.
And I always thought to myself, if I was going to do that, I would just have skates or ride the bike, because there was no benefit. In my opinion, we're also in Hurricane, West Virginia, so trends in California may vary. But I mean, I was a kid in let's say 85, 84. That was my middle school years. That's what was going on. So when I saw modern skateboards, I was like, man, that's like a whole different beast there. Because I mean, you could stand on it fully without. I mean, the other ones, they're not that wide, so it was even hard to stand on.
I think what happened was my mom bought me a skateboard from 1978.
I was going to suggest that.
Yeah.
It was. Have you seen the old ones?
No, but I'll show you. I'll post a picture of mine on the Discord. I have a giant skateboard pyramid of every kid that had a skateboard in the neighborhood, and mine's right on top. So it can fit on all of them. So
I'd bet my bottom dollar that you had one of those old school skateboards.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you. This is the key question, Boat. Did you go around your neighborhood on the skateboard or your bike picking up garbage?
No, but I know a game, Aaron, where you do just that.
Man, if I don't ever hear that music again in my lifetime, it'll be too soon.
You know, Aaron, it's funny. Do you remember when George W. Bush met Vladimir Putin?
No.
Okay, well, he said, "I looked into his eyes and saw his soul." Well, Aaron, when I played Skids, I looked into its eyes and I saw the soul of Eurodance trash. Because that's what it is.
Well, I mean, listen, there's plenty of good Euro. Let's face facts. We're going to get to the music right away. Let's just talk about it. There's one track. Do you hear me? You hear it over and over. It never ends. And it says the word Skids dozens of times. Even if you turn the music off, you're going to hear that. In case you're wondering who did the music, you're probably thinking to yourself, who is this hack? Oh, it's just Ben Daglish. He did the music.
Well,
so, I mean,
he was having an off day. Yeah.
You know, but I mean, listen, he wrote one song. I've listened. Have you seen the game? So let's talk about this game, Skids. Skids. Listen to this. You know, I'll look on this. Even when I look at the notes, I can't believe it. Released in 1990, they were published by a little outfit called Gremlin Graphics. You know, Gremlin's they've produced a few things over the years, if you know what I mean, including some stuff we've looked at, like Deflector, and among others, the Hero Quest games, just a lot of stuff. The Lotus series, they've published a lot of good stuff. Who developed it? A no-name outfit that you may have heard of called Core Design.
Wow.
Core Design did this one.
Core Design and Gremlin Graphics unite to
now, admittedly, Core Design was also responsible for the abomination that was Action Fighter. So that's not like they just produced nothing.
They are the most hit and miss of all the companies that most people think should be universally adulated.
They go from Banshee and Chuck Rock down to like Dynamite Ducks. And further south, and Switchblade was one of theirs.
Yeah.
So me and Bo, that's the ultimate love-hate relationship, that's for sure. This game was designed by Terry Lloyd. Terry Lloyd, my God, he was involved in a ton of stuff. Just about everything that Core and Gremlin was involved in, he was involved in too. The other design, this took two designers, was Bob Churchill. Bob was responsible for the Rick Dangerous games and Wonder Dog. And the coder for this one was Andy Williams. He's still alive.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It's the only game he produced on the or coded on the Amiga. The graphics on this were done by Lee Pullen of Chuck Rock fame. And he also worked on a game called Frenetic and Torvok the Warrior. That sounds like a winner right there.
Every time when you list off these games, and I'm like, why is the selection committee not picking Torvok the Warrior?
I want to play Doofus. When's that one getting picked? Then again, Skid sounds pretty cool. And then this was an OCS joint here, one disc, because one is all you ever need. And I should mention, in case you're wondering, Skids is in fact spelled cool guy style for your convenience with a Z. So, did you read the backstory for Skids?
Yes, I did. Let me see if I can summarize it. I know you've got it in front of you.
Yeah, I did.
You live in the worst kept town in Britain.
Scruffiest.
I believe that the scruffiest. That's right. And it's your job to go around and pick up the trash. Now, here's the part that gets me. The neighbors are having none of it. The neighbors are like, we love living in Trash Town. So, but undeterred, your job is to go and pick up all of the trash and save the environment of your town. Was I right?
You're dead on. You're dead on there. And of course, you've got different areas of town to go through before you take the big race to get the money. So, this game on paper, you're probably thinking to yourself, hey, this game sounds like it's got a lot going for it. You got Ben Daglish in there, Core Design.
On paper, this game rules because
you get the choice of a skateboard or a bike.
That's right. You've got a team, a proven team behind the game. You've got a good musician. You've got an okay premise, picking up trash. There's a little game I like to call Park Patrol on the C64 that has the same premise. That's an excellent game.
It makes a lot more sense in that game.
Plus, you've got all these different environments that you're rolling
Yeah.
around in, an open worlds kind of city driving game. And like you said, you can choose from multiple vehicles.
Yeah.
Aaron, what went wrong?
Well, let's start with the aforementioned music. This game gives you the ability to turn the music off or leave it on. Just turn it off. It's my suggestion. Because that song, however alluring it sounded there in the little promo, it will haunt your dreams and not turn them to nightmares. It just never stops. It never ends. Anytime you do anything in the game that's positive, some doofus goes, Skids. Skids. Over and over and over, you'll hear the word Skids, whether the music's on or not. I will say the game does have music and sound effects, but I mean, the sound effects are minimal, to say the least.
Yeah.
So at the opening screen, you get to choose your vehicle, like Boat said, between skateboard and bike. Now, I tried both these. This game is something else that makes it sound good. This game gives you 2 different control setups to choose from.
And you can choose between them on the fly too. Which is
I'm
nice.
gonna read this verbatim, okay, because it's easier to do it that way. You got Control System 1. Pushing the fire button increases your speed by 1 point, and holding down the fire button will maintain that speed. So to get a constant speed of 3 points, push the fire button 3 times. Hold it down on the 3rd. And then the Control System 2, move the joystick in any direction. That increases your speed by 1 point in that direction. Holding it in that direction keeps your speed at that value. Acceleration is achieved by continuously tapping the joystick in that direction. So I went with Control System 1. I did try to, and I got the heck out of that. Because I hate the tapping thing. The button has its own trials and tribulations. Which one did you go with?
Yeah, I was exactly the same as you. I started out with 1, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of awkward. Maybe I'll try 2." And then I discovered what real awkward was.
It took you to awkward school.
That's right
there. Now, so my next question, Boat, are you a bike man or a skateboard boy?
Well, I tried both of these too.
Yeah.
Now, according to the manual, they say they control identically.
Yeah.
I found that not to be the case. I found myself being able to progress much further in the game using the bicycle than the skateboard.
Me too. I was waiting for yes. I agree.
And so I don't know if it's just.
Maybe
I don't know.
mental.
I can't explain it. I can't explain why, but especially with like doing the ramp jumps and stuff, I just felt myself being able to control my speed a lot better with the bike.
Listen, I'm the same way. So, I mean, maybe there's something to it. I thought maybe because I didn't like the skateboard. I wrecked a lot more on the skateboard. And I don't know why. I should mention that when you first start the game, you're confronted with a huge wall of text. It's a big, huge wall of blue.
But it's nice though. It's very similar to a BBC micro game where you get the instructions and the introduction on an opening screen. So I'm not going to fault that at all. Give me more of that.
It's very similar to a BBS game, too. You can't put anything there. It's all going to be text. Can we have a demo screen or something? It's the Amiga. This looks like something you play on the old Pet. That's what it reminded me of. So once this comes up, you will have to select your first place to go. You only have one selection unless you cheat. And so that selection is the I believe it's the main drag. I'm trying to get here we go. It's the street. The street.
Out on the street.
And you're out on the street. So you're a dude with a flat top and sunglasses. Trust me, this guy spells his name with a Z. And whatever vehicle you chose, and you're driving around. So your goal is to pick up garbage, okay? So you've gotten on your high speed, low drag bike or skateboard so you can go slowly around town picking up garbage. So what is the garbage? Well, you'll see stuff like sheets of paper, pop cans, stuff like that. And then once you pick them up, you can only hold so much garbage. Although I could not see a meter or anything to tell me when you hit the wall on that. But once the game says, "Hey, listen, go find a trash can," you've got to drive around town looking for a trash can. They're usually, at least on the levels I played, I didn't find finding the trash cans all that difficult. Then you drop off the trash. You'll also find scattered around coins because in this horrible part of town that's all trashed up, people are so cavalier about things, they just leave money laying around. You
Yeah, and
pick
not just
that
any
up.
money, giant money.
Giant money, giant coins, in fact. You'll also see like obstacles floating around. Example, like a poodle dog. Like if you when you hit the poodle dog, if you hit them at slow speed, you just run into them. You're kind of stuck behind them. If you hit them at fast speed, you fall off your bike.
It's
There's
like real
also
life.
there's cats. There's like rats. There's broken
Pigeons.
bottles, pigeons. And like when you run into a broken bottle, for example, it says your tires are screwed up. I found this to have minimal effect on the game, but it did say that.
Well, you can also find a tool chest that will fix your tires
Right.
too, or your wheels.
There are also bums, like weird drunks, like weird freaks, guys working on the road, potholes, open manholes,
people popping out of manholes,
ditches, traffic cones. And you'll also come across delightful ramps. And the ramps take different forms wherever you're at on the street. It looks like a couple boards on a trash can, but in some places it's like a dirt pile. And you're thinking to yourself, man, I'm going to have a lot of fun hitting these ramps. Under no circumstances should you hit the ramp, because unless you're going at a high enough speed, you'll just die. You'll crash. You don't die. You just get hurt. And if you go fast enough, then you've got to land the bike. And really what you get for the jump to me, it didn't make it worth the chance of taking the jump. What was your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean that's sort of the problem, is that the game can't figure out what it wants to be. You've got it's in theory, this is a score attack game where you've got a high score, but in practice it's really not. In practice, this is a game where you're trying to collect the most trash before you run out of time and or health. So this is not a game that encourages you to point press by doing a lot of ramp activity, because the game is too lethal in other respects for you to waste your time doing that. I could see if you took out either one of the two declining features of this game. So if you took out the energy and you gave yourself unlimited energy, or if you took out the time and gave yourself unlimited time, then you could introduce the element of point pressing, where maybe you hang out on a level a little bit longer than you normally would, so you can hit some ramps and do some rad stunts or whatever. But as it is, the game is just too difficult to accomplish its primary mission for you to waste time doing stuff like that.
So let's talk about the limitations that you brought up there, Bode. You've got 2 meters on the screen. You've got your speed and you've got your energy. Speed is it reflects how fast your bike is going. Energy is basically how much health you have. At the top left of the screen, you've got a timer. This timer is probably the quickest way to get killed. You have to always try to top this thing off, or because it counts down real fast. And as you go around, amongst the things you can pick up are little clocks that give you additional time. And I believe if you successfully pull off a 360, does that give you extra time, Bo? I'm not sure I ever did one, but that's what the doc said.
I never.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, time was never my issue with the game. I was able to find plenty of clocks to recharge my time.
Yeah. Well, it was. I mean, if you go on a wreck spree, your time can run out quickly. This game, you mentioned that the game could never decide what it wants to be. I think it did decide what it wanted to be, and what it wanted to be was not that good, like bad. It wanted to be an mission accomplished. Because you know what makes me angry? We've had this happen a few times on the show. It's when they give you something where you should be able to, I mean, listen, the graphics of this are okay. Like, you could. It looks like it might be fun. I watched a guy playing this, and I thought, hey, this looks okay. This looks like it might be pretty cool. But that's a trick. It's not fun. They don't want you to go any game that's a racing game or has you on a vehicle, and they don't want you to go fast. Pisses me off. It's a Sonic the Hedgehog gimmick. Don't give me mega speed if I can't use it. This game has you meander around like an idiot, picking up, because you've got to pick all this trash up without dismounting off the bike. You know, so you slowly wheel across stuff. You slowly wheel up to it. As you're trying to go fast, there's crap in your way. There's rocks, or there's little puddles, or grass, or a stupid pigeon. All of it digs into your amount of speed you can pick up. And then when you finally get up to speed, you'll hit something and fall over, or fall into the river or something. You never get the feeling that this is a vehicle game. This is more of a game where you like run around the maze, but the controls suck. That's basically what this is. This is one of those games where the controls are part of the game, and those are difficult to pull off, and they did not pull them off, at least in my opinion, in this particular outing. The amount of stuff you can pick up, there's a ton of trash everywhere. To leave the level, you've got to pick up at least 75% of the trash. And I mean, that takes a while, doesn't it, Boat? I mean,
Yeah.
and the scene sort of, I mean, yes, it is sort of an open world, but it's not like there's a ton to see in this open world, is there, Boat?
Well, one of the things this kind of reminded me of a game on the C64 and the Atari 8-bit, and also on the ZX Spectrum, but it's a different game entirely on the ZX, called Action Biker.
Oh.
And no, not Action Biker. What is the name of the game that I'm thinking of?
I don't know.
Action Biker is that arcade port that we played. This is a game. Okay.
Action Fighter.
Oh yeah, I think it's Action Biker. I think that's
Yeah.
the name of it. And Action Biker is a game where you are on a dirt bike and you're driving around town trying to pick up pieces of your dirt bike. Okay. Do you remember this game at all?
And I don't. Right off the top of my head, I
Okay.
do not.
Okay, that's it. It's Action Biker. I think the Clumsy Colin part was either added or taken away for the ZX Spectrum version, and it's a totally different game on the ZX anyway. I'm talking about the C64 and the Atari 8-bit version. Anyway, the point I'm making behind all this is that it's a very similar game where you're rolling around on a bike and you're collecting stuff. Okay. The difference is the world is zoomed way out on this game, so your little dude is just like a couple of pixels high. I mean, he's tiny, but what makes the game fun is that you see this whole town spread out before you. So it's like you're driving around the map of this town, and there's like a park, and there's an amusement park, and there's houses and stuff like that. When you're driving around this town, it's just like, again, we talk about this all the time. When I play a video game, I want to improve on my surroundings. I don't want to drive around scummy McTrash Town picking up garbage.
We
That's
could go
just
to
not,
Huntington for that.
yeah, it's not something I want to do in real life. It's not something I want to do in a video game. So that's this. I think the premise of this game is flawed because of that. Because it's just there's nothing really appealing about anything that you're doing in this game. I will say, for what it is, the graphics are very attractive. I think that your sprite, you could certainly do a lot worse than the way your guy is rendered. He looks reasonably cool, He looks like somebody that
in the pantheon of cool guys on the Amiga, he is not anywhere near the worst.
Right. And so and I think that the rest of the graphics are fine. All of the isometric perspective stuff is done well. You can tell what all the items are that you're picking up. It's just, again, it's almost like everything was in place except for the actual, game. They had great artists. I don't know about the, Daglish must have, I don't, he had an off day, but I mean, it's just such a shame. It's such a shame that they chose this to be the focus of their game. Can you think of another game? I mean, the controls are also, they have games where you're on a bike or you're on a skateboard that don't control like garbage. Like, for example, I always think about Skate or Die on the race events, and Skate or Die or the Downhill Jam, or even when you're just skating between events, you're at the skate shop and you go to the various events, or a game like 720, where all you have to do is hold the button in a direction and then tap and move in that direction. I think what hurts this game is that this game is a game designed for like everything is just so far zoomed in, and there's so much stuff everywhere that you can never get up to a speed of any sense at all. You're always pedaling and then coming to a complete stop, pedaling, coming to a complete stop. So uh it's a shame because there's a lot of good bones here. It's just that the execution and the game itself is not awesome.
I was never, to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of the controls in those games either, but they're better than this. But one of the problems is just, you called it. In like 720, they give you room to move around. I mean, this
Mhm.
game, it's just there's too much crap everywhere. This reminds me this is like if you made a free roaming Paperboy but without any of the charm or the good controls that Paperboy has. I mean, this could have, okay, stick with me here for a minute, okay? Let's say you get rid of the whole bike concept and skateboard. It's not called Skids. Let's say it's called Spuds or something, right? But you replace the character with a wisecracking troll or something. I don't know, and he runs around frantically to pick the trash up. Okay,
Mhm.
who knows what he is, right? And if you made that game control well, you put some good music in there, some like quick, fun music. You have him get chased by, I don't know, the trashites or some guys throwing trash. Maybe he's got to do something to get them out of the picture.
You know,
Then you've
Aaron,
got something.
would this be a good candidate for a Benny Hill license?
No, well, because I love Benny too much to saddle him with this.
Well, I mean, think about it. Benny takes a job as a street sweeper. He's chased by attractive ladies throughout the town. Bam,
Well,
that's your game.
hey, you're the new designer. That's what I mean. Anything that doesn't require. Here's what I don't want in this game: jacked up controls. Okay, and the fact that you're picking up trash off a bike or a skateboard, it's just dumb. That's just a dumb concept. I don't think it's appealing, frankly. If you're on your bike, just like we talked about earlier in the show, you don't want to go around doing this. You want to go have fun on the bike. I want to go fast and jump off stuff. Where's the fun? The only time you really get anything resembling like the stunt track in Paperboy is when you do the race section of this, and even that's not that good. But it's still better. It's still more like what I'm looking for. The rest of this game, I didn't like it. We should finish that. In fact, that when you pick up 75% of the trash, you can leave the level. These barriers go away. You can leave. And if you get 100%, it just sort of beams you off the level. And then you're back to this like selection area that lets you pick the shop, a race, or to go to another part of the town to pick up garbage. And your goal ultimately is to clear every part of the town. That's what you're here to do. And when you go to the shop, you can pick up stuff in the shop. That's something else. The shop, I didn't find all that appealing, to be completely honest with you.
It seems sort of shoehorned in at the last minute.
So
I don't know that the shop really, the coin collecting gimmick and the shop gimmick, I felt like maybe they were throwing that in because it was sort of trendy to have a shop, and things. But with a game like this, it's all about, the environments that you're in. It's all about fast action.
Yeah.
And so it's a shame. I would have liked to have seen at least 2 stages open from the outset too, just to
Yeah.
give you some variety.
Yeah. So listen, here's what's available at the shop, okay? And then, first of all, picture yourself, you're getting money to go to the shop, okay? A shop. So what would you like to get? Like, for example, how about a new bike? How about a new skateboard? How about some power thrusters or spiked wheels or better controls? Like, here are your options. You can repair your bike. You can buy a helmet that reduces the amount of energy you lose from a crash. You can buy brakes that make the bike slow down faster, or the skateboard. And then you can also pick up things to get more energy units. That's it. That's what you could get. Those suck. Like, where's the fun stuff? Why are we draining? Me and you, we like fun. We like colorful fun. Right?
I'm all about fun.
And so this game drains away every bit of fun. We both just talked about how much we like bike riding. This takes everything that's fun away from bike riding. And just looking at the game, like you said, you're riding around a trash dump. There's all these freaks around. There's dog poop and doobies laying in the street. All this weird crap. What are we doing? I want some fun. Core design, you dipsticks. And you know you could do it. So yeah, I thought this was a dud. A dud. You got any final thoughts on it before we turn it over to the Discord?
Let's turn it over to the Discord.
What do they got?
Our first review comes in from Alien Breeder. And he says, in the great console wars of the 80s and 90s, the SNES had Mario saving kingdoms. The Genesis had Sonic saving chili dogs. And the Amiga, it proudly became the king of garbage collection games.
That's true.
Between the soap opera nightmare Neighbors and the glorified street cleaning simulator Skids, no system embraced digital dumpster duty quite like this. Skidz puts you on a skateboard or a bicycle, zooming through trash-strewn streets, scooping up litter and flinging it into bins, like you're the rebellious love child of Tony Hawk and Argus Filch. Sounds dumb? It is. Do you know who Argus Filch is?
I don't
Aaron?
know who Argus Filch is. Who is
He's
that?
He's the janitor in Harry Potter.
Oh, okay. There you go. Thank you.
Sounds dumb? It is, but it's also kind of fun. The graphics are decent, the tunes slap, and there's a strange satisfaction in perfectly landing a soda can into a bin while avoiding an open manhole. Still, once the novelty wears off, you'll realize that the real trash was inside the floppy disk all along.
Ooh.
Score
Big piece.
680 top bananas out of 1,000.
Nice one from the breeder. That was good stuff.
Pajako writes, what on earth is this game? It's like Paperboy and Neighbors got merged together in a Star Trek transporter accident.
Yes.
This game, much like attempting to control the characters, is all over the place. Is it a racing stunt game? Is it a collect 'em up? The level design is just awful. It's badly thought out, lazy, and difficult to navigate at any speed because the collision boxes are coincidentally garbage. You will crash into or get stuck on everything, including pigeons. Pigeons? Graphics are okay, but too busy. And the music? I turned that Skids off. It was so annoying. Timer and health on this are insane. No human could complete this without cheating. For a game that is all about collecting trash, I'm amazed there were no box copies of this in the game to put in the garbage. 4 out of 10. And finally, BFB says no. 3.5 out of 10.
You know, I'm glad Pajako brought up Neighbors. We're coming fresh off of covering that a couple months ago. And I thought about this when I was playing it. The similarities are scary. A crappy game that lets you choose different vehicles to go around your neighborhood and pick up garbage. So I don't know what was happening there. But so here's the $1 million question. I've got an answer for this. I want to hear yours. As much as we didn't like this, was it worse or better than Neighbors?
This game is an order of magnitude better than Neighbors.
It is.
Yeah.
As much as we've buried it, because at least in this game, I could get off the first level.
Right. And it is physically impossible, even with cheating, to beat the first level in Neighbors.
Yeah, I will say, Neighbors did give us Kylie Minogue, so the show.
But the game didn't. That's the problem.
The game gave us nothing. Yeah. What happened? Where's the digitized Kylie Minogue? In case you're interested, I looked this up on the old Lemon to see how the magazines thought. Because you think to yourself, what would the magazines think about this in '90? So the Lemon people give this a 5.71. Lore gives this a lofty 75%. The various magazines of the day gave this Amiga Action gave this an 81, if you can believe it. Amiga Format gave this an 86. Amiga Joker, what happened here? 69? Unless they were making an amusing joke. Dog Magazine gave this 7 out of 10. The Games Machine gave it 72. The average magazine rating for this was an astonishing 78%. It's one of the few times where the Amiga faithful over at Lemon are well below what the magazine average is. And I'm with those guys. I'd say 5.71 is right about in the wheelhouse for this particular game. Is that about where you'd put it, Boater?
I would give this one a low C. I'd give it a low C.
You're kidding me. A C?
Yeah.
Man, you are great on a curve, my friend. Lastly, I looked this up on eBay, Boat, in case you want to pick up a cop. You can get this out of Germany. I found one copy for sale. It's also the remake or the budget version. It's in the box. $45 your best offer. This could be yours if you want the re-release version. So
You know, one
gotta
thing we should
suffer.
mention because it's on right now. This game,
Yeah.
I believe, does this game include a 2-player race?
It does. Oh, I don't think it has. No, I don't think it's
Okay.
got two. It's if you race the computer. I don't think it.
There. Okay,
I
I
don't
couldn't
think it
remember
lets
if there
you
was a
race a
2-player
human.
option. Okay.
So yeah, of course that would be too much. I do want to say one thing before we call it off. When you jump up and complete a 360, you get money, not time. So there you go.
Oh, okay.
Which I also never got. Any parting words on Skids, Bode?
Leave this one in the box.
Hello, I'm British Jones, and I am here to talk to you about RetroRewind.com.
Mr. Jones, it's .ca.
Oh, for fuck's sake, you put .com right here on the bloody cue cards. Do you like to tinker? Get the old tip wet with solder? Maybe just sketch or doodle. Retro Rewind has an expert team ready to fix all of your creative mistakes. Frank and his team just love how you've learned to fix surface mount components by burning a hole in your A4000 board. So if you've got a priceless treasure you've hacked to pieces because you thought you were Adrian, get it fixed right at RetroRewind.com. It's .ca.
Did you just flip me off?
Amiga News.
All right, Aaron, we got a couple stories this week on the old Amiga News. First up, we have a new video that's just come out. And this is oh, I'm sorry, no, it's not. This is an advertisement, Aaron. It's advertorial.
Yeah.
If
I know
you're not
this
doing
guy.
if you're not doing anything this Sunday, which is in a couple days, we are finally announcing the winners of the Amiga Cami Game Jam Awards. A lot of people don't know that I am one of the official judges of that contest. And so me and some other guy and some guy named RJ are doing the judging. And with Bill, of course, and Cami, she'll be there. And so tune in to Bill's stream Sunday, May 25th at 2 p.m. and hear what game I have selected for my Game Jam winner, as well as the other judges.
So the other judges are RJ, Michael, Amiga, Bill, and you, and somebody else.
Somebody else, that's right.
Is it like a mystery judge?
No, I just don't know who he is.
Oh.
I mean, RJ's got an easy name to remember. It sounds like RC
Dadgummit.
Cola.
I thought you were being very coy. I thought you out to dry. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
I don't know
Listen,
who he is.
You're going to be on Amiga Bill show with a bunch of luminaries. That's good for us. People might be confused and think that we're.
I
cool.
do have some concerns about the Amiga operating system I'm going to be sharing with RJ. I think he made a couple missteps along the way.
Oh, you're gonna make sure whatever changes he makes, he adds a Z at the end of them. Just make it cool. All right. What's
next up,
Bo?
Aaron? I don't know. I just sort of zoned out.
This looks pretty good.
Aaron, Guy R Us,
What'd
one
you
of the most famous games on the NES, is finally getting an Amiga port. This thing, I'm sure it was an arcade game first, but I always remember it from the NES. This thing is another JOT joint. Aaron, did you play a lot of the old Guy R Us?
Oh, I love Gyruss. I love Gyruss.
Why are you calling it that?
Because no one calls it whatever that was you're saying.
It's Guy R Us.
So let's get back to the NES for a second. So like I knew. So this was I mean, I'm not being facetious when I ask this. This was a big deal in the NES, or you just being.
This was a huge deal. This was an early release. You know, when the NES came out, it had those arcade ports from Nintendo. You know, it had Donkey Kong and Popeye and stuff. This was one of the first contemporary arcade ports, you know, where I can't remember what year Gyruss, I guess it was 90. So I take it back. I thought this was like an 87 game, so it was still pretty later, but this was a big deal when it came out, and it had spectacular music on the NES.
Oh my God. And it really was clever. This launched the career of the fella that made it, because this is that game where they said, listen, like maybe I was like, make a card game or something. He was like, okay. And then he made this. And they were like, what is this? It's like, this is my new game. And I believe this guy went on to do like Among other things, I believe Time Pilot. I mean, I think he did some fighting stuff. I mean, I know I'm going to look back. It's like, oh, it's the guy who did Street Fighter. But I mean, he went on to be a huge deal. And this was like, I believe this was a game that was this the first arcade game that had stereo sound? It may be.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
And so, I mean, I love this game. I love this game. It was a great game. And I'm happy to see the Amiga getting the port. This is great. You know, get the Amiga getting all these arcade ports. First of all, we're good to go next summer, Boat. Knock, knock, knock. But also, you know, you could sit down with your Amiga and play all this of it. That's no small feat. It's a big deal. I mean, if you're into that sort of thing, so I love it. That's great. JOTD. I hope he does a good job. I'm sure he will.
Yeah, yeah. Coming up next, Aaron, we have a video from our buddy Chris Edwards. Aaron, you've watched this one. I've not had a chance to see it yet. It's called "So You Want to Be an Amiga YouTuber."
Chris even invoked our name in this video at the end. I was watching it anyway, so when he said that, I was like, I wasn't terribly surprised. So his buddy sent him a gimmick to help capture video from the Amiga, right?
Okay.
And so that's all this video is. And so I sat back and relaxed and got a cold one because I knew where we were going here with this thing. I think it goes about a half hour, 34 minutes. And it's watching Chris hook up a variety of capture boards, splitters, enhancers, de-enhancers, like re-hancers, and try to get a nice, beautiful picture out of this Amiga and perpetually fail. It never works. It never, like, whenever it switches modes, and the capture never figures it out.
You know, Aaron, I've got to laugh because we have what you call a history with this sort of thing.
That's why I wanted to talk about it. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong. I laughed hard and fast because I've been there. I mean, and I mentioned it because I posted a comment of this thing right away. And the comment was, we've spent more money on capture devices, capture USB cards, enhancers,
various cables and
SCART
cords,
stuff, splitters, and every sort of open source SCAD converters and everything in between to try to get a good capture off of these old machines. And I told him it's not just the Amiga because I'm like, we're pulling stuff off we were pulling stuff off the Spectrum, we were pulling stuff off the TI, the Coco. All of these things are difficult to get a good, clean, high definition signal out of. So at the end of the video, he gives up and he goes, "I don't know how you do it, Amigos." And so I told him our secret. We just find people that have really good videos and just credit them. That's how
right.
we do it.
Or if worse comes to worse, we use the Mister and we plug the Mister right into the HDMI capture card.
Yeah. And listen, I admire people that want to capture off their original hardware. God bless them. I really do. I'm being sincere. And I do it sometimes too, as you know, Bo. I'll hook up.
Yeah.
I'll hook up some stuff on the disaster stream and do that. But at the end of the day, the Mister effectively is my number one go-to source for Amiga capture, ZX capture. We've been doing a lot more capturing of stuff recently than we used to because we're playing a lot more obscure stuff than we used to, so we have to do it. But the Mister, I've found, probably 90% of the time, does a very good job with my capture needs. Now, there's always that little percentage. Like, for example, I'd planned on doing an X68000 stream a couple weeks ago, and it could not my thing couldn't capture the signal coming out of that 68000 emulator at all, and I tried everything. There are very limited options. So it's not perfect, but it's close to perfect. And so, but I told Chris, I was like, it's a combination of like, they're not our videos or the Mister. I was like, and I mean, and the funny thing is you could go and capture off your 1000 immediately if you wanted to.
I've done
it. It's not going to be HD.
No, it's not. And
that's what the people crave, Bo. They got to have HD, brother.
Well, it's funny because I used to stream a lot back in the old days. And I used to think, man, if I'm doing this on real hardware, people are going to want to tune in. And so, you know, you do the dance. You run cables back and forth and back and forth. And you fire things up and the colors are wrong. And so you're adjusting stuff in OBS. And then you start the stream and you put real hardware in all caps. And you realize that nobody cares. Nobody cares what you're doing. They just want to be entertained. They want to be, and so it was a valuable lesson, and it was a lesson that I've learned. The only exception is when I did that Addams Family run on the A1000, because it is one of my favorite games of all time, and I enjoyed doing it. But even then, it was still not perfect. The capture was still not good, and so that's the way it is.
It's the way it goes. And here's I do a lot of streams,
Yeah,
and so
a ton, millions.
but it's a bang. Well, I don't know if you're being cute, but I mean I do some, and it's a bang operation. You know how I like to operate, and it's just not logistically. It's not logistically possible to go through different systems as quickly as you can by just using the Mister. So I mean, your authenticity aside, it is what it is. So if I want to operate the way I like to operate, I just can't do it with the authentic stuff. Anyway, I've got it sitting here. It's just I can't. And I'm like you. At first, I thought, oh man, people will like it. And sometimes when you have real hardware and someone will go, hey, is that a real Amiga? And you go, yeah. They're like, oh, cool. And then that's it. So they may give you that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are other people that, if I'm like you, if I'm going to do a big, play one game over the entire evening or something, sure, use the original stuff because you're not bouncing around like a maniac,
Right.
So I remember when you were in Amiga Ireland, I always think about this when I'm thinking about going back to the real stuff all the time, when they were trying to have that MP3, a demo video, and the Amiga, I think the blue went out or the red, and they were just boned for an hour.
Yeah, and then you're sitting around. You got people poking around under the desk. Everybody throwing up their hands, and the whole event was delayed. And if you were just using a Mister, it wouldn't be an issue.
So all I can tell you, Chris, is God bless you. Good luck to you. I hope you find an excellent way to go in that endeavor. But I'll stick with my near beer Mister for that stuff. I think is that all we got, Boater?
Yeah, man, that's it. What do we got coming up next week on the show?
Let's find out. Oh, my. It's a big one, Bode.
Yeah. Edgar Vigdal. This is Deluxe Galaga. We have not done this since episode 19.
I can't believe it. I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm a big fan of Edgar Vigdal's stuff. I would say a pretty comprehensive look at his offerings a few years ago when I did a disaster stream on him, and he's got a really interesting library of games he worked on. I talked to a lot of the people that worked on this game and some of his other ones, so I think we can provide some interesting insight on this one. And plus, this is a stone cold Amiga classic right here, Bud.
Yeah. So we will see you then next time. And again, if you want to support the show, patreon.com/Amigos podcast. We will see you next week. And until then, adios.
Amigos is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Patreon supporters help choose the games we play, receive exclusive magnets, and get access to the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord server. Visit patreon.com/Amigos podcast if you'd like to support the show and join our community.